Come to order. Come to order, please. Call roll.
Mayor Manning.
Present.
Councilman Petroselli.
Present.
Councilman McGrowdy.
Present.
Would the clerk please read the minutes from our previous meeting?
Mayor, I'll make a motion that we dispense with the minutes of the previous meeting.
I second that.
Accept it as written. Call the roll.
Councilman Petroselli.
In favor?
Councilman McGrowdy.
In favor.
Mayor Manning.
In favor. Before we get going with the reports of officers and committees, we have a special presentation. Scott, you want to introduce it to our Citizen of the Month for the month of June?
Absolutely. This evening, before we get started, we'd like to take time to recognize a citizen from this community who was nominated by her son to be the June 2019 Citizen of the Month, Lorraine Fitzgerald. Lorraine has worked in the high school and elementary school kitchen for over 40 years, serving lunches to students, faculty, and staff, and always doing it with a smile. She also prepared the Watervliet High School football team dinners for 10 years. And she continues to help with the Hall of Fame events and seasonal banquets. Lorraine has also donated homemade desserts to the church food pantry for over 20 years. Mrs. Fitz, congratulations.
Ms. Fitz, as a token of our appreciation, you get this nice fancy certificate. Someone can get a nice frame for that for you.
Oh, I know, he will.
More importantly, with the winners we've been having, you get this nice fleece pullover. It's got the seal of the city, and this is from Wicked Smart here in Watervliet as well. Okay?
Yes, thank you.
So the hard part is almost over. You got to pose for a picture.
Oh, that's it. Want to see my bag?
And then, traditionally, the winner usually gives a nice speech.
Oh, come on. I liked it. That's it. I loved it.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming. Okay, Scott, back on track. Here we are. Reports from officers and committees.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to begin tonight. I had a PowerPoint presentation prepared, but technical difficulties as usual for me. Just briefly want to discuss what's going on with the former Dutch Reformed Church. I'm sure that's on everybody's mind to see what had happened and where we're at with that. It's really the church bell tower right over here located at 1501 First Avenue. So there was an emergency declaration made on the former Dutch Reformed Church bell tower during a review of the bell tower for a grant that we received for rehabilitation. It was found that there was further failing condition of the bell tower from its original state 2 years ago when we applied for the grant. the engineer determined that it was in dynamic failure, meaning that it could collapse at any moment. So with the imminent collapse being present, a declaration was made on June 4th, 2019 at 4 p.m. based on the engineer's assessment. At that time, the Ditano brothers were doing the assessment on the church bell tower. They've also been a contractor for the city before for demolition work and emergency demolition work. So during their review, this was found by the engineer, and since they were on site during the declaration, they were hired under emergency circumstances to complete the demolition and restructuring of the bell tower. Work began on the tower immediately at that time. I apologize, I had some pictures, some close-up pictures of it, but they can be provided to you if you want to. If you want to send me an email, I can send you some pictures of it. The first part of what needed to happen was they needed to support the existing floor joists underneath the bell itself and working its way up to build an interior structure of support, not only to be able to support the interior of the bell tower, but to be able to reach the top from the inside rather than take it down from the outside. Once that interior structure was built, it allowed the contractor to remove it from the inside, and steel cables and turnbuckles connected with turnbuckles needed to be wrapped around the outside to secure the outside, because if it was to collapse, it would have collapsed outwards. That was completed. Again, these pictures would have spoken much better than me. You can see complete cracks and sunlight coming in from the cracks in the southwest corner of the bell tower. So the first step is to remove the roof structure, which has been done, and then begin to remove the brick, working their way around the tower, really brick by brick, making sure to ensure everyone's safety. Once it is down low enough, they can then remove the bell from the bell tower. The main reason to need to remove the bell from the tower is the flooring underneath it, because of the water damage, is no longer sufficient to hold the bell in place. So that's the other step. The bell has been secured for the moment, that way it doesn't fall through the floor and into the foyer area. Once the bell is removed, then the remaining brick can be removed, and then we will rebuild the structure up as far as we can and put a new roof on it. What you can see now is that they've saved a lot of the pieces from the top of it to try and get it back to its aesthetics from what it looked like before. So it'll really look like a condensed version of what the top of it is. Again, I have multiple pictures here. In doing this assessment, it was also found that further structural work would be needed for this. The southwest corner of the building major in the back also had some water damage to it, and through the freeze-thaw of the last 2 years had seen significant impact and further damage. So that will also be repaired and tightened up to prevent further damage. So to give probably answer the big question here, we received a grant as far as to rehab the facility itself to get it up to use. We were able to work with the Office of Community Renewal to change what those grant funds were appropriated for because of the imminent threat to public safety. So those funds will now cover the costs of the tear down of the bell and the remediation of the other structural work. At that time, once that is complete and the grant is closed out, we will then be allowed to apply for a further grant to be able to complete the rehab that was scheduled to happen this time. So this will not come at any further cost to the taxpayers to be able to get this work done. Again, this was done in the interest of public safety. Obviously, the road has been closed, the parking lot has been closed, and the Historical Society and Museum has been closed because of this imminent threat to public safety. That is all that I have on the bell tower at this time. If there's any questions from up here on the bell tower, I can answer them before I move on to the next topic.
The question I had was, how late did we act on it? I mean, was it something that we could have saved it 5 years ago, 10 years ago? And I know we didn't have the grant then, but we had studies, and we did look at it before.
So there was a study done on the interior of it, which was basically showing the damage from the fire that was done by Weston and Sampson. I'm not sure on the years of that, but several years ago, 5 to 10 years ago. On that, at that time, they did not find any structural issues where it was felt to be an imminent threat or that it would collapse.
No, I wouldn't assume that it was going to collapse at that time, but it probably needed to be repaired.
Well, even in the original documentation that was done for the grant work, it wasn't expected to be that much damage, just needed to be arched to be fixed. So I can't comment on any further back from that time.
I was wondering if we delayed too long to act, as far as preventive maintenance is concerned, more so than wait to the last minute.
Yeah, the main issue is the Philadelphia gutter system, which is
I'm
the
sure.
causes.
Okay, well, they rot out.
And in both spots where there's damage on both southwest corners of it, that's where it was. There is other damage in there that was found, not imminent threat, but even if we were to be able to secure the southwest corner, it would require further maintenance to keep it up over the next 10, 15, 20, 1,500 years.
I have a question. Is the bell tower necessary? Are you use the bell?
No, the bell tower is not necessary.
Why would you rebuild it?
We're not going to rebuild the whole bell tower. Once it all comes down, we're just going to rebuild the roof right there on that spot, and we're going to try and use the existing aesthetic infrastructure that was used on it just to keep the same look to it. So it almost looked like just a condensed version of what it was before.
And what are we going to do with the bell?
The bell, Strex has agreed, sorry, I get asked the same question every day by the same person, so. Tom Regusta. He's very interested in the bell.
I said I did. That's the first time I
no.
asked.
So that's why there's some smiles. Tom wants to make sure every day.
Yeah.
But Strex has agreed to, once the bell is removed, it'll go on a Strex flatbed and be brought down to Strex. They'll house it there until it's all done. But we have talked, I know that the Historical Society would like to place it on the other side of the steps and put it in there, but that determination has not been made.
Is it in good shape?
It is in pretty good shape, yes, it is. And it's an old bell from the 1800s, which is likely a Manili bell. Built right.
Okay. Any other items?
I do. I'd like to announce, it is on the city's website, the Arsenal is going to be changing their gate operation beginning next Wednesday. They will be closing the south gate, which is the main gate that they use now. They'll be closing that. Right now, that's the main gate for entry. They use both the south gate and what is known as the Gillespie gate on 10th Street as exit gates. They're basically going to, for the time being, swap the two gates. So the 10th Street gate will be the only entry into the Arsenal and will act as the main exit. And the south gate will still remain open as exit for the time being as they rehab the entire entryway over there, entry and exit over there. Make it flow a little bit better and to make it more secure than it is right now. Once they get into the exit area over there, they will completely close down the south gate and only use the Gillespie gate. We are talking to them. They also wanted to use the old main gate on Broadway, so we're talking with them now about if that's feasible. We do not believe that it is because of traffic issues and because the bike path is being built, but we continue to work with them. So definitely a change in traffic pattern, certainly much more traffic on 10th Street and at the bend at 3rd Ave. Truck traffic is being pushed towards Colony, so when they leave the Arsenal, they'll go west on 155 into the town of Colony and not east down 155 and into the residential areas of the city of Watervliet. We can expect that to start taking place next Wednesday. If I could make a suggestion, I would avoid 155 if you don't have to use it. Any questions from the council on this? And then finally, some very positive news. With our continued work with the Capital District Transportation Committee, the Federal Highway Administration, and DOT, the Federal Highway Administration, in cooperation and partnership with DOT, the MPO, which is the Capital District Transportation Committee, the Department of Health, and the Governor's Traffic Safety Committee, have reviewed data for each community that had spoken to them in regards to traffic safety matters in certain areas within their municipalities. And they have determined that the City of Watervliet has met the data threshold and could benefit from a pedestrian safety audit provided by the Federal Highway Administration. So the Federal Highway Administration will be completing a traffic safety audit in the area of 23rd Street and Broadway, and more specifically in the crosswalk sections to access Hudson Shores Park. So we've been in contact with them. This has been a topic that we've talked about with DOT for years now, and they're going to do a traffic audit, and from that audit could come up with ideas as to how to make it safer for passage over there and to make it easier to access Hudson Shores Park. So some positive news, not a grant that we had to apply for, but just some communication with some of the regulatory agencies who are willing to help out and help with the cause that we've identified.
That's good news.
Mayor, that is all that I have for this evening and reports.
Okay.
One more thing, is there a question on the bike path here?
Is there a question?
Or the status on the bike path?
Yeah, so the bike path, we actually, there was a resolution that we tried to rush to get into tonight, but we held back from that because we have to have our plan of financing for the bike path. The bike path is a $1.3 million project. It's a reimbursable project, so we have to be able to have the funds up front. So I'll likely be coming to the council at the next meeting with a bond resolution to approve bonding those funds to pay the upfront costs and then be reimbursed by DOT. I'll have a complete financial breakdown on that. It is in the preliminary design is done, is entering into its final design. DOT has to give approval for final design to take place. Barton and Judas is pretty much ready for that final design to take place. Final design really talks about what the quantities are that are going to be used, curbing, backfill, asphalt, everything like that. Basically to put together the final bid specs and to get it out to bid. We do have a small window here. We will be approved by DOT ahead of the September 1st deadline to move on it and to go to bid. The question will be, will we have enough time to construct the entire project in this construction season? So basically before the end of November so that we can continue to pave. It's a very tight window, and in dealing with DOT, a lot of the back and forth with that kind of slows things down. You know, we're still hopeful that we'll be able to get it constructed in this season, but we felt that if we couldn't get it fully constructed in 2019, that we would hold off the beginning of construction until 2020. But that still remains to be seen. But it is currently it is in the final design phase.
Okay. Let's get on with the legislative program, old business.
In old business, we have public hearing number 1. A public hearing for the purpose of hearing those persons who wish to be heard regarding possible submission of community development block grant applications for 2019.
Okay, we'll open this public hearing, and this is a follow-up. If you were here at the last meeting, Dave really gave two presentations. One, what we think we're going to do, and the other one was status of what we have done. So this is a session for the public to comment and possibly make suggestions on how we should go about applying for various grants that are offered by the state and federal government. There's actually some legislation later in the meeting. If you're looking at your agenda, some of the ones that we plan to apply for are listed there if you have your agenda. They include an update of our local waterfront revitalization program, reapplying for water quality improvement project program. Many of these are grants we put in each year and we don't get them, so they're basically ready to go the final year. A microenterprise funding grant as part of an economic development program. Microenterprise grants are the ones that pretty much all the shops along 19th Street and 3rd Ave have obtained to either get started or improve their business. And that's all on the CFA. So, anyone want to comment on the grants that we plan to or might apply for?
I have to get up there and
Yeah, it's a public hearing, yeah.
Don White at 1921 8th Avenue, Watervliet. The city of Watervliet should apply for every possible grant that they can. Every grant you get benefits the city. Taxpayer doesn't have to pay to do things. Residents in the city, low-income residents get grants to upgrade their property, improve their heating systems, and everything else. So the city should apply for everything they can possibly apply for.
Yeah.
Been pretty close to that. As many as we have the capacity to, and then even more so. We've definitely been applying for, so continue on that trend. That's part of the reason why there's 3 on today, is to get those completed and out the door, so we can concentrate on 3, 4, or 5 more. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, we'll close the public comment period. And move on with new business. Scott.
In new business, we have ordinance number 2003, an ordinance of the City of Watervliet providing that the code of the City of Watervliet, Chapter 260, Vehicles and Traffic, Article 8, Schedules, Section 260-46, Schedule 10, Stop Intersections, be amended.
Mayor, I'll make a motion that we move on this ordinance.
Second that.
Any discussion?
So this is to add a stop sign on the southbound drive on 4th Avenue and 6th Street, which is the northwest corner. Our Lieutenant and Acting Chief, Brian Strock, is here tonight. This is a recommendation that he provided to the council for approval.
Questions on that for that? Right? Call the roll, Scott?
Councilman Petroselli.
In favor.
Councilman McGrowdy.
In favor.
Mayor Manning.
In favor.
Up next, we have ordinance number 2004, an ordinance of the City of Watervliet providing that the code of the City of Watervliet, Chapter 260, Vehicle and Traffic, Article 4, Handicap Parking, Section 260-30C, Sign Locations, be amended.
I'd like to make a motion to accept ordinance number 2004 as written.
I'll second it.
Any discussion?
This is a carryover from the last meeting. Chief Spain had originally proposed a certain type of handicap sign here and made a recommendation to change it. This is at 202 8th Avenue and is recommended to the council for approval.
Any questions on this from last time? No? Okay, good. Call the roll.
Councilman Petroselli.
In favor.
Councilman McGrowdy.
In favor.
Mayor Manning.
In favor.
Next, we have ordinance number 2005, an ordinance of the City of Watervliet providing that Chapter 260, Vehicles and Traffic of the Code of the City of Watervliet be amended.
Mayor, I'll make a motion that we move on this ordinance.
I second that.
Any discussion here?
So this is specifically for parking ticket fees. This changes some of the fees that are on our parking ticket schedule, and that will be printed on the new parking tickets that we will be ordering once we receive approval from the council on this. The fees that are changed on here are in line with neighboring communities, some slight additions for some of them from $40 to $50 and so on, and the fee schedule has been distributed to the council for review and approval for this evening.
When was the last time we changed this? Do you remember? Any updates?
Well, we haven't ordered tickets in probably 3 years, so it's longer than that. So
2014 was the last time we put it.
it's been at least that long. Quite a while. Parking tickets.
We came up with these fees because other departments have the same cost.
Yeah, so Lieutenant Strock did a thorough review with some other neighboring municipalities to see where they were. He made some suggestions, and then from there made recommendations. Those are the recommendations they received to the council.
Very good.
Good. Call the roll.
Councilman Petroselli.
In favor.
Councilman McGrowdy.
In favor.
Mayor Manning.
In favor.
Next, we have resolution number 9622. Council of the City of Watervliet hereby authorizes Mayor Michael P. Manning to file applications under the New York State Consolidated Funding Application Program and the New York State Department of State Local Waterfront Revitalization Program, and further authorizes Mayor Michael P. Manning to accept and receive a grant for updating the current Watervliet LWRP plan and program.
I'd like to make a motion to accept resolution number 9622 as written.
I'll second it.
Discussion?
So this is the application through the CFA to the Department of State to update our local waterfront revitalization plan. Like others that we've approved recently, we have basically exhausted most of the current plans, which are now outdated and therefore require an update. The Department of State offers grants to complete this action, and therefore I recommend this grant application to the council for approval.
Questions?
I'm good.
Okay. Call the roll.
Councilman Petroselli.
In favor.
Councilman McGratty.
In favor.
Mayor Manning.
In favor.
Next, we have resolution number 9623. Council of the City of Watervliet hereby authorizes Mayor Michael P. Manning to file applications under the New York State Consolidated Funding Application Program and the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation Water Quality Improvement Project Program, and further authorizes Mayor Michael Manning to accept and receive a grant for water quality improvement purposes.
Mayor, I'll make a motion that we move on this resolution.
I second that.
Discussion?
A little deja vu here. For the last 3 years, we have been applying for this grant. This one in particular, portions of this is for the complete separation of the combined sewer outfalls that we have in the city of Watervliet. We've applied for this again the last 3 years. We have been turned down each of the last 2, so this will be the third time. Third time's a charm. And what we've done is we've sharpened the pencils on it, talked to DEC and EFC, who are the agencies that fund this program, and we've put everything in order that they've asked for, and we're hopeful again that everything is in order, everything is the way they like it, and we were able to complete this very important project.
Questions? Call the roll, Scott.
Councilman Petroselli.
In favor.
Councilman McGratty.
In favor.
Mayor Manning.
In favor.
Next, we have resolution number 9624. The Council of the City of Watervliet hereby authorizes Mayor Michael P. Manning to apply for micro enterprise funding as a part of the 2019 Community Development Block Grant Economic Development Program, and further authorizes Mayor Michael Manning to accept and receive a grant for economic development activities.
I'd like to make a motion on resolution number 9624 as written.
I'll second it.
Any discussion?
As the mayor previously stated, this is a CDBG grant for economic development by either enhancing current businesses or encouraging new businesses to come into the city of Watervliet.
Any questions? No? Call the roll, Scott.
Councilman Petroselli.
In favor.
Councilman McGratty.
In favor.
Mayor Manning.
In favor.
Next, we have resolution number 9625. The Council of the City of Watervliet hereby authorizes and directs Scott P. O'Reilly, City Clerk to the Council, to advertise once in the official newspaper of the city that sealed bids will be accepted until 10 a.m. on July 12, 2019 for the upgrade of the electrical interconnection of the Normanskill Hydroelectric Plant.
Mayor, I'll make a motion that we move on this resolution.
I second that.
Discussion?
As previously stated at council meetings, the city council chose to procure Gomez and Sullivan to upgrade the electrical at the hydro facility in Guilderland. This is in regards to changes that National Grid made that they had announced that they were going to make in 1996 and follow through with in 2016. And so we are now forced to make these changes as well. Currently, we run at 50% capacity of the hydro because of the limitations. So this will help us to get back to 100% use of the hydroelectric facility out at the Normanskill. So with this is to put the bids out there. They will be available, they will be published immediately and available on Monday for any outfits that would like to bid on this project. And we will receive them before the next meeting and hope to be able to put on the agenda the approval of the lowest bid to the council by the July 18th.
Jeremy, what's the budget amount for this?
So the expected amount from the engineers for the construction of this is between $300,000 and $350,000.
And this is coming out of the bond?
This can come out of the current bond that we have for the relicensing of the hydro, or it could come from other funding sources.
And the Gomez and Sullivan's that we approved is also part of the...
Yes, that comes directly out of the engineering costs for the relicensing of the hydro. That's additional on top of the construction.
What was that?
I believe off the top of my head, I know it's roughly $80,000. Go back and look at the last one.
That would be, what,
4 to 430,
10%?
about that. Put it together and to do the construction inspection. I'd have go back and look, those numbers might not be right for them.
Jeremy, when we do this work, will that affect our assessment out there?
It will not affect the assessment at all. We will have to obviously shut down the hydro while we're doing it, but we have some other planned things that we need to do out there as well, so try to coincide them together. We'll have to draw down the reservoir to get below a certain spot because we won't be able to run the hydro. At the same time, we're planning to replace the pins and the boards out there on top of the hydro, so we can do both at the same time while the water level is up. No change in this.
Okay, call roll.
Councilman Petroselli.
In favor.
Councilman McGratty.
In favor.
Mayor Manning.
In favor.
Next, we have resolution number 9626. Council of the City of Watervliet hereby approves and adopts the green procurement policy, which shall be included as an addendum to the City of Watervliet procurement policy.
I'd like to make a motion to accept resolution number 9626 as written.
I'll second.
Discussion?
So this is in line with our climate action plan and a process in the recertification as a climate smart community. Several action items in here, including vendor policies, bid policies, and city policies for using certain items where applicable to help reduce the carbon footprint utilized by the city of Watervliet.
Questions, comments?
Can you give me a couple of specifics on it?
Yep, they're in the plan itself. Pull that up and give you a few. Off the top of my head, using recycled paper when where necessary, printing on both sides of paper, getting copy machines that use less toner and are more effective with waste. One of the main things that's in there is packaging from vendors that deliver things to us, reducing the amount of packaging that's in there, requiring reduced packaging. And when we go out to bid, asking that in the bid specs or the bidders to utilize the same type of thing, more recycled type of items, to recycle the waste in a specific manner, and also to use less packaging products in there. So reducing cardboard, paper, and packing styrofoams. Those are the main things that are in there, but some other details within that.
Very good.
Good?
Yep.
Call roll.
Councilman Petroselli.
In favor.
Councilman McGratty.
In favor.
Mayor Manning.
In favor.
Mr. Mayor, to the best of my knowledge, that's all we have in new business.
Okay. Appropriations accounting?
Nothing.
I don't have anything tonight, Mayor, but I believe we will have something in July. Mike McNeff is working on a transfer, budget neutral transfer.
Okay. Items?
Jeremy, what, it was about a month and a half ago or 2 months ago that you and I went up to the filter plant?
Yes, yes.
And on the west side of one of the, I don't know what they call them, but with the holding
Flocculator.
flocculator.
Yeah.
I have to be careful.
It's real, Lieutenant Strock, it's real.
So, but that wall was in pretty bad shape there,
Yes.
and pretty much came to light more so with the bell tower. What are we doing about it?
So, we've spoken to Weston and Sampson and asked them if they can get there and take a look at it and see if they can determine what is causing it first. The first thing that they said is we might have to cut into it to be able to see. So we're currently securing the other flocculator to make sure that if we hit into there and it did something to the one that we use, that the other one would still be actionable. If not, we wouldn't have the use of the water. So we're trying to get an idea of what is causing that to bubble out, so to speak, as we saw. Once we can determine that, make sure that we're not disrupting the facility by tapping into there and removing that brick. We don't think that it will happen, but we want to be certain before we do it. Then we can look at a way to repair it. We don't have anything budgeted currently to be able to do anything at the filter plant, so we would, once we knew what it was, we'd have to come back to the council and either ask for a budget transfer or a bond resolution or something of those lines to be able to cancel it. As we spoke before, we did have an assessment done on the entire filter plant. This was not in that assessment because it was not recognized before that. Some of the facade work was, but this in particular was not, so we don't have anything on the books yet as to what the issue is. Timetable on it, I would expect that Weston and Sampson could probably give us something, I could probably have something to the council before the next meeting to be able to consider whatever the damage or
You
cost
aware of
might
it?
be.
What he's talking about? It's probably what, maybe a 2-foot bulge?
Yeah, 2 foot or more. You can see it when you drive by.
You can, I
It's
noticed
pumped
it.
out pretty good.
Yeah, it's pretty obvious.
Yeah. Filter plant has a lot of upgrades that are necessary to it. This one, we believe, again, is from intrusion of water and freeze thaw and continuing to hold it out.
Okay, had to separate from.
Yeah.
And what about the garage in there? You and I had talked about possibly just putting on
Yep.
heat proof.
We actually had a company that Scott had been talking with that comes in and does free assessments for roofs. They provided us with an assessment of the roof and 2 possibilities for it. We're contemplating right now whether we want to use that company to put together a bid or go out. Their quotes that they had for what they expected the work to be were much higher than an initial quote that we saw. So we want to make sure that the specs are right for what this other company gave us a quote on. And if the specs are similar, then we can get further quotes on it. Otherwise, it would likely require us to go out to bid for this work. And again, it's unbudgeted work.
The other thing I wanted to just make sure everybody was aware of, that WTEN volunteers painted the dome this past Monday. About seven or eight individuals from the channel took part in it. Took about 3.5 hours or so. And hopefully everybody kind of looked at it and saw that was a good improvement. The other one I wanted to talk to you about was there was the business, the downtown, committee that we're putting together. Has that been named fully?
Yes.
Okay. Can you give us some light on it? Because I heard some names, and I was just kind of trying to find out what are the names and what were the, let's say, the qualifications, or what was it being looked at? There are some of them that I just can't seem to connect to a business.
Well, it's not just business that goes on the committee. So what's recommended by the consultant that we have is to get a cross-section of the city. So one, they wanted to make sure there was a representative from CDTA on there. They wanted a realtor. They wanted somebody in the banking industry. So we got someone from each of those, specifically a realtor that is a resident and property owner within the city of Watervliet. Someone from CDTA's planning department, which works, and then someone that works at Pioneer Bank, since that's the only bank in the city. So it really made sense to do that. From there, it was to have business owners, city residents, and city staff as part of it. So I believe that 2 residents, 2 business owners, and 2 city staff were placed on there. But I can send you a list of who the people were that were placed on there, and they've been sent to the consultant, and I was scheduling the first meeting.
And just the idea is I was hoping to be able to be, Frank, Councilman Rowdy, and myself be able to have some input into the possible, naming of some of the ones that we thought might be, beyond that, just for your consideration. But if somehow or another to be able to have that input would have been kind of important from us, from the standpoint of the councilman. That's all.
Yeah, I don't know if any of that was communicated.
No, just a point of.
No, I don't think it's frozen. I imagine it's going to be dynamic, so.
It'll be the same thing going on with the comprehensive plan as well. So
Yes.
if you have some names, I would suggest getting those to the mayor.
Whatever there is, something like that. I know, frankly, I'm sure you would like to have some kind of input into it myself. Thank you. And that's all I got.
Okay,
The other one,
let's go to public comment period, Scott.
At this time, the council has authorized the public comment period. If you wish to address the council, you must step forward, state your name and address for the record, and you will have 2 minutes to address the council on any matters you wish. At the end of your comment, the council may reply or choose to reply at a later date, if they so choose.
Paul Uban, 1500 12th Avenue, Watervliet. Last meeting, I asked in regard to the boulevards on 16th Street. I haven't seen anything done. Again, it's a matter of calling National Grid because they put a main through there and have them address it. I don't know if that's been done or not. Again, if they don't respond, then certainly public service would be a great help. Has anything been done on that?
Prior to your comment at the last meeting, they had already been out and hydro-seeded the boulevards. Some grass has grown there, and they've been contacted and asked to come back and hydro-seed again. But the way that the grass has grown has not been to our liking, so they need to come back and do some more remediation.
If that was hydro-seeded, it's unacceptable because it's mainly weeds. Whoever hydro-seeded didn't have a very good mix.
The
So,
difficulty with hydro-seeding is also it needs to be watered, and there's not any watering system within those
should be
boulevards.
weeds. Go up and look right now, the first boulevard is all weeds. Well, if you'd like to address it, fine, that's what it is. Second of all, I'd like to mention 12th Avenue between 24th and 25th Street. I'm very disappointed that the catch basin and the manhole was not raised. The manhole is quite deep and whatnot. We're beating a dead horse when it comes to these things. I know the job is done, but in the future, if I'm alive, I'll be on top of it, believe me. Third of all, whoever did the sidewalk work, okay, the handicap sidewalk in the city, are they coming back to topsoil and seed in the areas where they excavated to put the forms in?
At which location? We have two different contractors at two different locations.
Okay, 18th Street, 2nd Avenue, property guy.
So we've contacted that contractor to come back. There's a couple of other issues as well, with some asphalt where it meets the road that they had to come back and do as well, so we'll be back to do both of those.
Very good. Last thing, Councilman Pipercelli asked a question at the last meeting in regard to that home that's being refurbished on 21st Street. The height of it, was anything ever done with that?
Yes, as a matter of fact, I apologize. I meant to bring that up tonight as well. So we did have a surveyor go out and measure the height of that property, and the height was measured at 34 feet from grade. The 34 feet is within the code. The code reads 35 feet. It was actually 33.8, and he rounded up. So it has been done by a surveyor, and a surveyor that the city uses regularly. And Councilman Patricelli had pointed out that the cost of it should not be too much, but the property owner paid the cost to that surveyor. So it is within the code of what the restrictions are on the height of the building.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you. Forgot to mention that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
What's the, on the boulevards, are we allowed, or I mean, do we have anybody that's allowed to put down, let's say, weed and feed?
We do, yes, we do.
It might be to our advantage to maybe weed and feed those, let's say, boulevards, and then at least get rid of some of the weed, weed amounts that's in there, and let the grass grow, and maybe we can talk more about, the water note, but weed and feed might be the way to go. You'd have to have somebody with a license to do that.
Yep, we can weed and feed it. If we did it at that point, we're taking responsibility for the boulevards rather than National Grid. So waiting to get National Grid to go out and do more work on that, and then that is the plan, is that we would prepare the grass to be better because we know what they're doing.
But Jeremy,
We are prepared for that.
there's a couple boulevards that are completely bare. I don't think nothing was going to be cracked.
Yeah, they were all hydro-seeded. I was actually driving by when they did it, and I would agree with you, Mr. Yvonne, they didn't do a very good job.
The one west of Jane Hayes. Jane is taking care of the her boulevard, does a nice job.
Roses in there.
What's that?
Just the roses in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, she did a nice job on it. She put mulch in it. The one, I think the next one up still has that depression that a truck went over it, and there was a cone or something in there, and it's still like that. And I think they hydro-seeded up over that.
I think it's right at the corner of 7th and 16th.
That one.
Yeah. If the next time through they don't do it, we'll put the topsoil on there. They've been made aware of all of this, and my expectation is that they'll come back out and do it, and if they won't, then we will do it. Holding National Grid responsible for all this work before we step in and make it.
Jeremy, I got a question pertaining to the lighting in our parks. Are we getting those fixed with the LEDs, or if they're not working, some of them aren't working.
If there's lights that aren't working, just send that to me and we'll have them replaced. Certain parks are having the lights replaced, but some of those lights are National Grid lights, so those ones are not.
Hi, guys. Christine Kreslov, 1624 7th Avenue. Just a question. Can we take the park over by the dome and designate that just for teenagers and older kids and do something for them only? They need a place, okay? At least that here you have the fire station there, you have the police station not too far, you have it closed in, okay? Can't we just like make that their park and do something special for them? We've got the dome there, Charlie's seeing too, but they got the Wi-Fi there. Why can't we put other things in there just for the older kids to give them their own spot? There's nothing in the city. So they're going to vandalize everything else. You know, there's no place for them to go. You can't beat them, you know. They have to have a place. They have a place just to get together, to sit, to talk, and some activities, anything. But is there any way we can just sort of use that? Years ago it was used. Now it's vacant all the time. You know, except for when they have little football, you know, tryouts and stuff down there. Why can't we just give that to the older kids and do something? Just a suggestion, maybe then they would leave the other parks alone and not destroy them, but we have to put something in for them. Be it picnic tables, benches, something to keep them active. And I know that they have money for the parks, I was told that before. So why can't we just use that for the older kids? A thought. Okay.
As a father of a teenager in the city of Watervliet, I definitely hear you. I don't think there's enough for the teenagers in the city of Watervliet, and my hope is that that DRI study will start to focus on finding things for teenagers to do. Some facilities, some development, some economic development for teenagers, whatever that might be. You know, whether it's an arcade, a bowling alley, something to entertainment style for teenagers to be able to get things done. So that's part of and one of the major things that I hope comes out of this DRI study is to find things for our teenagers to do, whether it be inside or outside, and looking at those lands as well to see what their uses can be.
Hi, I'm Nancy Sheridan, 604 3rd Avenue, and I just have a few questions. I'm not sure if I should be here, if there's another department I would deal with. I guess you would consider it a quality of life issue. We are right next door to Patrick's Pub. It has been a bar for years, I realize that. But there seems to be quite a few changes that have been going on over the years, and it just seems to be getting worse. Monday morning at 1 o'clock, we were rocked out of bed listening to garbage pails be dragged from the end of the gangway to the front to be put on 3rd Avenue. I don't think anyone should have to deal with that. There's a 3-foot gangway in between the two buildings. I don't think garbage containers that are big garbage containers need to be stored there. You can't open your windows. There are heater lamps. There's plywood. I don't think anything should be stored in there. God forbid you each go out that side of the building, there'd be no way. There'd be no way. There's an event that I don't think years ago anyone looked into where it was being put. That's also right there next to the bedrooms. That could go on until 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. I don't think that's acceptable.
You said that's a vent?
It's a vent, yes, for cooking. And like I said, you know, things have changed, things have been modernized, but I'm sure there was other spots within the building that maybe that could have been looked into be putting there. And it's quite noisy, especially when you have a 3-foot gangway in between. The back area, I think Lois ended up having someone cut down the growth that was knee-high in spots, waist-high in other spots. When I suggested to Pat Fallon last year about doing it, I was given a grin and said, if I didn't like it, I could call the city. And I know he knows different people within the code department, so you know, I don't think that's the way things should be run. He's now moved tables and chairs over directly behind our little patch of grass that they don't like. It's been there for forever, when my father was alive. Windows can't be open. They get their party right there. There's no reason they can't stay behind the building where they are. You should keep your windows closed. The smoking things are put right there. They're filled with water. If you ride by, you can see the stuff that's all pushed against our back fence, and you get nowhere. I've also brought a collection of the broken glass bottles that every day I have to pick up out of the backyard, because we do have dogs. That shouldn't be acceptable either. I just don't know who to contact. I don't know where else to go. 2 weeks ago, they had a wedding back there. So are there permits that are required? Are neighbors to be advised? There was also things last year. It's not just myself. Other people won't come up because of retaliation. But I think it's definitely things that should be looked into. There should be quality of life and not have to deal with that.
Thank you. For the most part, the majority of things that you're talking about are code enforcement issues.
Okay.
If for any reason you're not comfortable calling code enforcement, for whatever reason that might
I
be.
reached out to Steve Walkman yesterday. I realized he's only part-time.
Yep.
Because I wasn't sure, but I knew there wasn't a meeting until July, and I figured I'm going to try to nip it because it's only getting nicer and warmer, and no one should have to deal with that. No.
Yeah. You contact Steve, Paul Bossiere, Jason. If you're not getting anywhere, you feel like you're not being heard, you can certainly contact my office.
Can I just have a quick little minute? There is a planter that was dragged from the back of our fence that was parked there for 5 years. And I have photos of it. And it was dragged across and it's now sitting outside of our back gate. It's the city's planter. I was told that years ago. Those are the city's planters. Could it be removed? It has a dead plant that they just let there to bother us. It's now sitting in the middle of the blacktop. It was dragged, you can see the drag marks.
I'll check on that. I don't think it's the city's planner, because I don't think that we ever
Mayor
put it
Manning
there.
told me when I had questioned about the front ones that it was the city's.
Okay.
Probably one of
Years
those,
ago.
it's one of those concrete ones with the
Yeah, they
bricks
used to
on
be
it.
by ash lines. Yeah.
They're on
I
19th Street.
never said that, first of all. They're ash lines planters.
Right, and when I
That's why they
questioned,
used to be in front of
right,
the ash lines.
I questioned a couple of years ago when we were talking about the grades, and you told me those are the city's planners.
No, I never would have said that. They're not our planters.
Where'd it come from?
They were from the ash lines years ago.
Yeah, because the ash
The
lines
city
go on
took
and
their equipment and moved it. They put 2 in front of the bar and 1 in the back. It looks terrible. It's an eyesore, the plant is dead in it. Whose is it then? I'd like to know, and get it removed. That's all.
As far as your other question with the noise and the permits, there is a permit process. They were contacted and told that they needed to follow the permit process.
Okay.
They have actually applied for a permit at this point for something tomorrow. There's a permit process for having any type of live music, Saturday, any type of live music, and then that can be given to them over a period of time for inside. For outside, it is case by case. It has to be point by point. It has to be turned in, and it has to meet certain criteria. The one that they turned in met the certain criteria. They've been allowed to have a DJ and then a band playing from 5 p.m. until 10 p.m., I believe, or 10:30.
Inside, outside?
It's outside. As well as approved. There's an approval process for it, but I will bring to everybody's attention that the code actually states that it could be approved up until 1 a.m. But I will give credit to the city clerk who told them that there's no way that it could go that late and cut it off at 10:30. So that is planned for that day. There is nothing in the code that states that if there's something going on that it's sent to everybody in the neighborhood. It would be a little bit difficult for us to be able to do that, but if that was to be changed, we would certainly come out by
But
that.
I'm not trying to be sarcastic, but just think if it was you guys, and you were there, would you want to listen to that? Would you want to have tables put over so everybody sits there, screens, music is turned up so they can hear it, smoking, so you have to close your windows? I mean, what quality of that is anything? So if there's not-
Should meet my neighbors.
But I'm just saying, if it's not a function, it still goes on. It still goes on. That's all I'm saying.
If you
That's
think
all
that
I'm
there's anything that's in violation, or you have any complaints, please call. And that gets put into account when we're looking at new permits and approving permits. If we've had complaints, that comes into
People
account.
called last year when they had something going on. They could hear the music over at Manor Place.
Yeah.
And so I'm surprised they gave them another one this year. Was one given for the wedding 2 weeks ago?
There was not, and that's when they were contacted and told that if they needed to, they needed to get a permit.
Thank you very much.
Keep talking, it's not my own. I didn't cut you off today.
Anyone else? Okay, we'll close the public comment period, and we have to go to executive session, so
Mayor, I'd like to request that we adjourn into executive session to discuss personnel matters. I would ask that all members of the council, myself, City Clerk Scott O'Reilly, Corporation Counsel Yor Newban, and Fire Chief Tom Garrett be present for the executive session.
I'll make a motion that we adjourn to executive session.
Second.
Clerk call the roll.
Mayor Manning.
In favor.
Council Patricelli.
In favor.
Council McGrath.
In favor.
We're adjourning to executive session, which is done here, so we have to clear the room.